from the communist country of Canada in the foothills of the Canadian Rockies. So I just did a video about some of the theories that were too complex for me to calculate. And I thought I would take the opportunity to try with artificial intelligence to do these calculations. I even went as far as to call it a formula or a method of seeing our reality. I mean, if Maxwell Planck can name his theories of quantum physics, I thought, well, I could name my theories. And astonishingly, I'm going to discuss this because one of the viewers of my channel kind of said, wow, I wish you could explain that to me because I don't understand what that video was about. And I'm of the belief that our Father in heaven is not an Elohim of confusion, but one of clarity. So I'm going to talk about what I did while I was sitting in the bathtub trying to do these calculations with artificial intelligence. And I want to make it very clear, I do not like artificial intelligence. But when you could calculate massive amounts of calculations and theoretical nuances, I thought I'd just give it a try. So let me start. Hi, Christine. Hello, K-Man, and everyone else. Irene, 6 people in the chat, 3 thumbs up. I am blessed. So let me get started with, I'll lay down a foundation of where I'm going with this. It may take a bit, but I think if my viewers be patient enough to hear what I did and what I was doing, that they would understand the previous short video that I posted. So let me start by saying that the calendars are all wrong. And we know that Hanok, or Enoch, was shown and taken to the heavenly realms and shown and wrote about and understood the workings of our world, the matrix that we live in, this prison planet. So the moon is a faithful witness. If the Zionist, Talmudic, Babylonian evil ones that run this world say it is by the sliver of the new moon that we say this date has started and this date has ended, theoretically, we're still witnessing Hanukkah. So if the enemy is saying this, I don't believe this. If NASA says we're on a ball spinning around in space, spinning around in the sun, spiraling through a galaxy, then why do we look up and see the stars and the same star system over my trees in my forest for over 20 years that I've witnessed are in the same position constantly and consistently, day in, day out? So someone is lying, and NASA, in Hebrew, the deceiver, and the Project Paperclip bringing in von Braun, a Nazi, and all of these other Freemason Jesuits, and they're all Freemasons, and they're astronauts. So I don't trust NASA. I can trust when I put my chin on a piece of stick in the ground so I don't move. And I could trust that I put my thumb out and I could measure the sun and the moon. And I could say they're equal in size. I had a friend sit in this chair, and he had taken a thermometer in minus 30 weather, which would be a good time to do it now because we're in minus 30 weather here. And he measured the light of the moon and the shadow in a cold temperature environment and found that the light of the moon is colder. So the world that we live in, including our time period that we're living in, is incorrect. It's just wrong. So the calculations that I did is this. When you look at a solar flat Earth model, you have the sun spinning around the North Pole at a close spin, and then you have the sun spinning around the near or far from the equator at a larger circumference. So the sun does this per year around Niagara Nupus, or whatever the magnetic mountain that they theorize is in the North Pole. Now, I witnessed with my own eyes, being in Tuktoyaktuk in the Arctic Circle, the sun bounced up and down the horizon in the middle of the summer all day. Didn't disappear under the hiding of the surface of the earth. It was moving and the earth was stationary. So as a person of faith, I was gifted with perfect and subtle coincidences that are not coincidental, including stumbling across monoatomic elements and knowing in my heart, in every fiber of my being, that this world is not right. There's something wrong with all of this. Most believers would agree with me so far. So monoatomic elements, if you can imagine, and I'll use this piece of paper and I'll just draw you a simple construct. The relation between the molecule and the nexus of a molecule, whatever atom or whatever element on the periodic table you're looking at, each nucleus and electrode or electride or whatever you want to call it, the spin cycle stays the same in a solid state. But in a plasma state, in a monoatomic element, this becomes smaller and it spins faster. So you're with me? So when I came up with some of these concepts, which was also in finding in the Meseroth, in the celestial heavens where our calendar comes from, where all of these monuments are all over the world. And to give you an example, the belt of Orion, where it says in the book of Job, who shall loosen the belt of Orion? And the Pleiades system being the 7 churches and the 7 called out assemblies in the book of Revelations, where the Pope knocked on these doors on Christmas Eve today and opened up these portals in these churches that make a sigil of Lucifer. These are not coincidences that these monuments were placed in the earth and on the earth at specific timelines. Dr. Stephen Pidgeon, the gentleman who gave us this big, beautiful book that is before you, called the Sefer, he also had looked at some of these monuments. And the suggestion and theory is this. When you built the Sphinx and pointed it at the Draco system, and there was a 13th celestial heavenly body, not 12, but 13. We have 12 disciples, but there was 13, wasn't there? Judas Iscariot. So we're looking at systems that are written in eschatology. We're looking at global and I would call cosmology. And we're looking at quantum physics. And I look at all of them in a broad vision and combine all of the quantum physics, cosmology, and scripture saying the same thing. Now, with that theory in mind, we are given a 30 or 28-day month, and we're given 13 months, and it works perfectly in a lunar cycle, with a full moon being the sign in the heavens and the start of a new month or moon or month. We know that the Gregorian calendar is pagan, Monday, Moonday, Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday, Woden, etc. We also know that it says in Scripture that he seeks to change the times and the seasons and the laws, that we war against principalities and high places and governments. We know that the censorship is insane, and why I did that video was to preserve what was given to me and already lost in its complexity. So let me continue this example of what I did. Blessings to you, everyone. Yes, it's a round globe. Yeah, absolutely. So monoatomic elements, like I said, they spin at a higher spin rate. This was done by Ron Hutchison, who burnt his soil samples in electrospectrograph to get a readout of what was in his soil and what was causing this problem in his soil. Then he discovered that the Russians had a longer and hotter burn rate, which means that they burnt these materials in electrospectrograph for a longer, and it yielded completely different results. So when I looked at his studies, he was trying to get a copyright, and the Men in Black said, no, we're not giving you a copyright until you do it with gold. Gold, and monoatomic gold, is called manna. When you connect these dots in my mind, and if you listen carefully to what I'm saying, you'll get exactly where I'm going with this, for those who have eyes to see and ears to hear. So the monoatomic element was a basis for finding out the Meseroth, all of these celestial locations on the earth, because each one of them had a month that it would designate where it was in the timeline that they built these monuments, and that you'd be able to retrograde back to the beginning of time and then go forward in time to find out what time we're in. That was my objective. The uses of these calculations go back even to beyond just these monuments. First, I calculated the monuments. I added more monuments, Angkor Wat, Machu Picchu, Easter Island, and then I asked AI to find the Pleiades system and map that out on the 7 churches at the Vatican, Vatica meaning the beast of the underworld, and that the Belt of Orion was also part of the pyramids, and go find the other 11 celestial bodies on the earth and monuments, with Hornsby Island Mysteries being the genesis of my thought. And sure enough, these monuments are all over the world. I knew that China had pyramids. It turns out they're there. And that some of these monuments are most definitely evil. And the reason that they were building these monuments is to have their rituals done on a very specific time period. Now that we know that when they built these monuments, that also when it came to pass, when these societies collapsed, we had a record of historical fact of the Assyrians, the Minoans, the Aztecs, all of these different cultures spread out, but kept to their heritage and their culture and their rituals and their language and behavior. Yeah. Yes, Vatican. Absolutely. They show pentagrams all over the world, my friend. Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. Repent to Yeshua HaMashiach, the true HaMashiach, the one that the Word made flesh. So, to do these calculations, I had to look at, in the cosmos, they take into the mathematical equation dark matter. So I removed the volume of dark matter. Dark matter is the unknown equation between the space and the quarks and the relationship between the density of this changing. When you remove the dark matter from the equation in the cosmos and you look at quantum physics and you use the same math, his perfect ordinance, you come up with some very strange phenomenon. And so when you go back and watch my short video, me telling you what I did and why would better explain it, but those numbers don't lie. 144,000. I'm ready for the pagan holiday. Yeah, I don't support Christmas, but I understand those who believe in the Netzarim, the Nazareth, the Word made flesh. His name is Emmanuel, Yahovah, Yahushua, with us, Elohim, Adonai Elohim. Those that are in ignorance, practicing the pagan holiday called Christmas, and the Yuletide log and the tying up of an Ashtaroth pole or a Christmas tree in their house, when they are asked to come out of Babylonian culture, it's going to take some time before people comprehend that this was a Babylonian edict and a pagan holiday to begin with. So Esther, Easter, Christos, Christmas, Saint Nick. Nick is a nickname for Satan. Also to remind people about Santa Claus was invented by Coca-Cola, C, third letter of the alphabet, Freemasons. And we go on these rabbit holes decoding our history and our culture and realizing, oh my goodness, we're in a pagan Babylonian world and we don't even know it. So for those people who are celebrating his birth and death and resurrection, and you're doing it out of ignorance, so be it. At least one day of the year you could act out of love and kindness and celebrate his birth, so be it. But it is a pagan holiday, absolutely. What is the status of paper money? The paper money is fake, right? Yeah. It's okay to celebrate it. You don't have to apologize. I love all of you so much. It's all good. Yeah. That's my puppy, my pug. He's not doing well. He's probably not going to make it. Yeah. Yeah. So let me continue on with my decode here. I believe it might, most likely, with all the rituals done on 9/11, it was most likely it was in the late fall because there were shepherds in the field. That the studies that were done in the conjunctions of Saturn, Saturnalia, and Jupiter, the king planet, that were both king and of Saturn, that conjunction that happened would make a massive star in the sky, and it would be there for quite some time. And the Magi, the word comes from magician, Magi, that they were from Syrian region, and they were people who followed the stars and the Meseroth, that they knew the prophecy was unfolding. So most likely September 11th, 9/11. And the reason all these rituals keep on coming up about 9/11, it makes perfect sense that Halal, the true name of Satan, would do these rituals, these evil things, out of complete hatred and blaspheme of the Word made flesh. That's my take on it. No, I'm not in a barn, but my poor pug is sick and he's not doing well. I don't think he's going to be with us. So let me continue on this. So I looked at monatomic elements, and that I noticed the spin rate changes when you burn, and in an electrospectrograph, things change very much when you turn them into a plasma state. There's massive secrecy about plasma. When I witnessed that when the sun comes up, the sky starts lighting up before the sun hits the horizon. So we're literally in a biosphere, if you will, where plasma is lighting the sky more than the sun, and the direct sunlight leaves shadows and heat signatures, but make no mistake about it, our atmosphere lights up and is driven by plasma, just like our northern lights. So then I realized with monoatomic elements and the Russians burning longer and hotter and for longer, when Ron Hutchinson was asked to do it with gold before he could receive his copyright, there was a strange phenomenon that happened that, again, in perfect timing and sequences, there was no coincidence. I was led to the Book of Enoch years ago, and when it talks about the Ark and the Covenant floating over the Euphrates River, that it had anti-gravitational properties. And if you look at the Ark and the Covenant being gold, wood, and gold with a power source inside, you have a superconductor. The Baghdad battery was another example of ancient technology where they had a vessel filled with lemon juice and a cathode and electrode. And then when you go down the rabbit hole of Tartarian Empire and the mud floods and the missing time in history and the theory of Satan's little season, all of this comes flooding forth, and you realize, why do we hide technologies? Free energy. We don't talk about plasma and plasmoids. We don't talk about the state of elements outside of the solid or liquid forms and monoatomic elements in all the periodic tables. The second thing about the periodic table is that they took ether out of the periodic table. When I started connecting these dots together, I just sat in the bathtub and I just pulled out AI, Google, and I said, give me a calculation of what timeline we're in. They said, oh, it's Christmas Eve. Okay. Give me a calculation with flat Earth and the Enochian calendar, a 28-day calendar with a 13th month mathematic equation. Okay, and then I started breaking down all these calculations. Okay, if monoatomic elements are there, and that if the sun spins closer to the North Pole and then spins out to the North Pole, take those measurements and equations on the quantum realm, quanta, what is quantum, what is small, is also in the cosmos, which is large. When they started looking at Maxwell Planck and the relationship between light and photons, light started acting like a particle. And then upon observation, it acted like a wave. So when light is being observed, it changes its behavior. Then at that point, I knew that photons and all matter interacts with light. So then I said, put the periodic table in there, take the mean average date for all of the calendars combined, take the average of all those dates, divide it amongst those, what date is it? The Hebrew calendar, the Enochian calendar, and all other calendars, the Assyrian calendar, and it came up with a very different number. So are we in Hanukkah still? The answer is most likely yes. Then the next question was, calculate the distances minus the dark matter that we'd see in the cosmos. So I would do the opposite. I look at the cosmos and they say, ooh, planet Jupiter's blah, 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 which is all nonsense. We live under the firmament. But the distances between the cosmos, when they relate it to this phenomenon called black matter, fictitious science, I said, take that out. Now tell me what the distances are. And the distances between these elements. So first I did it with gold because monoatomic gold is called manna. It is literally called ormus, and it is called the food of the gods. Man has an affinity to gold, and we are referenced as gold being refined in a crucible with all the impurities, the dross taken off. So stay with me. What is the firmament? Yeah. The firmament is the waters above and the waters below, and what was separating us is called sky ice, which to the best of my understanding is a simple way of putting and separating us from the heavenly realms. Let me continue. As complex as this seems, when I finish, I think you'll get it. Physical form has a unique property that you have an affinity of molecules. So an iron molecule wants to attach to another iron molecule. But why do my hands bounce off each other? And if you watch the documentary called What the Bleep Do We Know, you'll find out that there's an electromagnetic field between your two fingers that allows your fingers not to phase in or out of each other. Now, just give me one moment. Can I take that plug in? I am going to give you an example, the best way I can. When we look at and could think, because our Father gave us a brilliant mind, and we could, theorize and come up with different theories. That's what we were given by our Creator, to think these things. Seek Him. I look for my Father in everything. So, this is plasma. It's a freaky little light. But if you notice in the firmament, we're under the firmament, that all of this light and the properties of light, they interact with the grounding force of the earth. So when the earth, they have what they call sprites. Sprites are massive discharge from the earth into the atmosphere. And the theory is that that's what took down Spaceship Challenger, or not. Don't know, can't confirm, wasn't there. But I could say this, there are sprites, and that's a massive discharge of energy from the earth into the ether, and it bounces off the dome, the firmament. Now, why does this matter? Because if you take all of what the Bible says literally, and you run with it, and then you take what you've known as physical reality, and you run with that, but you start removing NASA's lies and Copernicus lies and Darwin's lies and all of these lies that were told to us over millennia, then you could come to some realization of not only the calendar, but the actual workings of our Father, and His ways are higher than my ways. I am but dust of the earth. I am not worthy, and I have more ignorance than intelligence, yet I come up with these complex ideologies that I can't even explain, and I don't know where they come from. Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. Good point. Yes. I know. Let me continue. So the calculation was this. If this spring equinox and winter equinox and the sun moves like monoatomic elements, my theory was very simple, that the speeding up and slowing down of these properties, if I take a mean average, you have a year. And so as it speeds up and slows down, as the sun gets closer to the North Pole and farther away from the North Pole, one cyclical day and 360, because we live on a sphere and a flat domain, that this would be calculable. And it would be a noble endeavor when you see that the Meseroth that is above us and the pyramids and the belt of Orion match perfectly, and so does the seven churches of Laodicea. Then I came to the conclusion that we've got to find the rest of these monuments, and I found them. And that's not the wondrous part. But when I asked AI, has anybody done any of this calculations? They said nobody has ever calculated any of this stuff to this extent. So now imagine this. You've got gold, and it's got a spin rate of this, and then when it's in its plasma state has a spin rate of this. Well, I don't want the calculation of gold. These monuments are not built of gold. They're built of many different materials. And most of the materials on the earth have been in and on the earth since the creation. And then therefore, if you take the entire monoatomic elements and the entire literally chart of the periodic table and include ether into that calculation, and all of their spin rates, and then the mean average of that, all known substance in Earth, all of the elements on the periodic table, their spin rates in a monoatomic state, divided amongst all of those periodic table components, you come up with an average. And then you already say, his creation in its entirety on average spins like this in a solid state and this in a plasma state. Tell me what time it is. Now, when I did that, the distances, I related that to the average without dark matter put in there, because all dark matter is saying, hey, this stuff that we don't know about, we're going to call that dark matter. We're going to call it gravity instead of buoyancy. It's man's way of saying, well, it's got to be this because nothing else makes sense. So we're going to call it this. Ironically, they call it dark matter. Now, in the video, you'd have to go back and watch my short video that I did. There's a couple things that are consistent with relation to the Bible. The corruptible will put on incorruption. The mortal shall put on immortality. We are the light of the world. This light and the way it acts in the world under the firmament is consistent. The sun comes up, the sun heats up the atmosphere lights up. I've seen it completely pitch black outside with no moon, and yet there is still light. It's a plasma state. Now, you have to go back to the Tartarian Empire and the hidden science that they used, drawing electricity out of the ether, which Nikola Tesla talked about and did. You have to study the Tunguska event, where there was a massive explosion or something happened in Tunguska, Russia, that caused this massive explosion. No crater was found. It wasn't a meteorite. People theorize it was exploded above the surface. I could tell you one thing for certain. When you observe light and it changes its behavior, the question is this: how does light know it's being watched? For those who have eyes to see and ears to hear, let him hear. But when you interact in this world and believe that it is created by your Creator and you are in faith, love, and gratitude, the veil is removed. And the calculations and questions that I asked AI is this: what's happening? Where are we in the timeline? And how does this affect humanity? And AI's answer was simple. We're electrochemical, bioengineered creatures that are affected by the plasma in our atmosphere, in the firmament, giving flat earth calculations, and that at the end of this year, in January, in the nearest future, that we would change. You've heard that before, in the twinkling of an eye. And that we would become ethereal, or shall I say transparent, or shall I say immortal. That's what Scripture says. That's what AI was saying when you do these calculations of the theory that monoatomic elements under a higher spin cycle would react in a closed ecosystem. If I'm showing you that dolphin filled with plasma and it's charged with electricity, and I'm explaining to you that that's what our world is, And if I say to you that when you burn these elements in an electrospectrograph and you change its properties, gold, purest in form, is supposed to be transparent, translucent. The more pure of an element, the closer it is to its original form, it becomes invisible. During Ron Hutchison's experiment where he burnt gold, he was a wealthy farmer to do these experiments, you take monoatomic gold and they put it on a scale after they burn it and say, how much matter was removed upon burning this to create monoatomic gold, or ormus, or what they call manna? And the answer is simple. The scale kept on moving when they weighed it. It had no gravitational constant. So therefore, if gold does this, then I calculated all of the materials on the periodic table, including ether, which is the ether, this thing that we are kept hidden from. Yet I tell you this, there is a record of everything that you've ever done, which leads me to the next, that's my poor puppy, which leads me to the next conclusion. When you had an experiment called Montauk Project, that was a spin-off of Philadelphia Experiment, where they tried to put the ship under a bubble to keep it away from radar. The phenomenon that they created was a lot like the Chinook winds that I experience here in Calgary, Alberta. And so there was an ionization, electrification of that atmosphere where plants were affected, but most cats and dogs started barking and squeaking and acting really weird. And then that ship disappeared and reappeared down the harbor and then reappeared where it was. That experiment was, in fact, a reality. I'm a welder. Coincidentally enough, again, I am familiar with electromagnetic fields. When you coil up your welding cables, when you're gouging, you create electromagnetic fields and it could change you. And that there was a welder welding on that ship when that experiment was taking place. Fast forward to Montauk Project, where they have psychic spies. Now they call them remote viewers, where they were looking for a helicopter. And they witnessed it as it was going down, and they were in that helicopter when that experiment took place. And the question there is, was there a record in the ether, in and accessible to the people who could tap into that firmament, that recording, if you will, that book of life? And you have to ask yourself, if these psychic spies, these remote viewers, can go and look at these things and see them and they're actually happening, that is time travel. Yet we say time travel dilation is impossible. I say this openly and honestly. A lot of times when these theories come to me, I have no idea where they come from. But I could say this, all of these things that I say are true. Now, how does ancient man in Scripture know of these things? Speak of these things? And was this the first great reset? Was this the first or last known Tunguska event? Tartarian mudflow extinction event right before us? I know this. Those beautiful people who watch my channel, those people that could think for themselves and say something's not right here, all this hatred out of where's it coming from? This is Satan's little season, I don't know. But I'll tell you this world got really evil really fast, and this dark evil that is upon us all over the world with this World Economic Forum, Freemason, Jesuit, Luciferian rule over us has corrupted this beautiful place and has made a lot of people really angry and hateful, and division has come upon the land of the entire world. And this is going to snap. Those people of the light will supersede this, but the darkness will come. So when I do these calculations, I wasn't, and I'm not, looking for the kingdom coming. I'm not looking for Yeshua HaMashiach's arrival. I'm not looking for the date of rapture. I believe in all of those things and none of those things. Enoch was taken and did not see death. Elijah went up in a whirlwind. Yeshua HaMashiach was received unto the clouds. Rapture is in the book. It is harpazo. It is real, if you believe the book. Transfiguration. Philip was transfigured after speaking with the Ethiopian eunuch and was transfigured to another location. I take all of these realities and I take all of these mathematical equations, these world monuments, the structures of his creation with Fibonacci math, fractal math, and I say to myself, my Creator is infinitely amazing and can do anything. And I say openly with a humble and contrite heart, I'm looking for him everywhere. And I see him in everything. And I understand that when Yeshua HaMashiach came here, he said, oh, you people of little faith, how long shall I strive with you? As he's dumbed down, simplified his communication for us simpletons, us who walk in our skin suit, our sin suit, that we would comprehend these things. In parables like the wheat and the tares, and the seeds, and the good shepherd, and the sheep know his voice, because that's the only thing they understood. But knowledge shall abound in the end times. In the end days there shall be Hamas, terror. And as in the days of Noah, there shall be an abundance, yet shortage of the word. I asked AI, what's the most persecuted religion on the planet? It's Christianity. I asked, what secrets would you not allow me to share with the world? How much censorship is this going to be if I ask AI to promote this as a theory, as a doctrine? I put it in there. I submitted it to my Telegram channel. And I went and looked at it 2 minutes later and it disappeared. I'm glad I took screenshots. I have a good memory, but I tried to write it down to systematically show the thought process and these calculations. And then I would go to other AI calculators, because they're just tools, and back up those theories with different concepts. And then I realized something. AI was looking all over the world in man-made writings and scriptures and doctrines and mathematical equations by man. And then I went, so AI isn't that smart after all. Yet it gave me this date of the upcoming event in which they would call it a ignition of the plasma in which we live in. Now you do with this what you want with this technology. I put up my hand and I say to you plainly with a humble and contrite heart, I'm not trying to calculate the event that is coming. I merely took all of these beautiful things that I know to be fact and I know to be fiction, and I took them out of the equation and I asked something much more brilliant than me if it could understand what I'm asking of it. And it took many times to do this. And then brought that calculation to its simplicity. What time are we in? Nowhere in the scripture does it say he rested on the 6th day, the Sabbath, the 7th day, and the great glorious 8th day that is in reference to the Hanukkah, the last day of Hanukkah. We have all of these ideas, theological principles, but none of them say that in the 7th day creation story, that on the 7th day he rested, and the 7th millennia, it will be the end, that we will rest. That the millennium kingdom would take place, or has already taken place, and we're in Satan's little season. We are to walk in faith. Pure agape love. And we are to resonate and to feel that gratitude and love for the greatest and most important event unfolding before us in human history. Don't be like the Sadducees and Pharisees of old, who missed the arrival of Yeshua HaMashiach and called him a heretic, a necromancer, a magician, and crucified him. We've been waiting. We've been looking. We've been praying. We've been mocked and scoffed and hurt and ridiculed and had tons of hopium. Oh, we're getting raptured next week. Oh, and it never happens. And another false prophet. I'm not a prophet. I'm a man who is blessed and forgiven, and I am not worthy. There's nothing special about me, but I'll tell you this. I got my grade 8 education, and I went back and got my grade 12 to become a welder and a chef, and I'm not that smart. But I would ask a very simple question. How do I know these things? And how do those numbers and concepts and realities stick in my mind and tell me, look at this. This is the world you live in. Be blessed. Hey, Mark Simmons. You talk like a character from the Trailer Park Boys. Bubbles. Hey there, boys. Want to grab some beer? Yeah. I don't know if that's a compliment or what. Let me say this. I love looking for my Father, and I see him in everything. Tomorrow's Christmas. It's going to be people celebrating and being with their families, and the one time of the year that they could get together. And the most idiotic day after that, Boxing Day, where you're going to go spend a whole bunch of more money and give it to the BlackRock and Vanguard and Wayfair and all of these Zionists who own everything anyway. They're not rich enough. You might as well give them the last bit of your money. But I am not a consumer. I am not a bad person. I will continually looking for these, I would call them evidence of the evil. When you look at the evil, what it does is it shows you that there's opposite of evil. Yahweh Adonai Elohim. If you type in miracles, there's so much evidence of him and his creation and miracles that you need not to look at these gematria calculators and these people that are doing these things only to wake up those people who are still in the world. Pray for discernment, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Spiritual wealth, yes, Ghost. When I looked at these things, go look back at those calculations. Go look back at what was basically said in my previous video. And I hope this example and explanation leads you to think like I do. And there's nothing special about me, but I say this. I'm going to prop up my phone here to do this. I prayed to Father. I said, Father, how long have they been destroying these little babies in Baal worship? Oh, my heart was broken. And when I asked that question, in my imagination, I went forward in time and I went backwards in time. And I watched and witnessed in my mind, in my own imagination, all the wars, all the famines, all the plague, all the pestilence, from the book of Adam and Eve to the book of Hanok, to the book of Yashar, to the entire Old Testament and the New Testament, and to this very day. And my heart broke. And I said, Father, how can you love us? We're such hideous creatures. We treat each other so bad. But when I asked that important question, how long, the answer was given. And it's always been. And when I had dreams about this, where I seen it all being destroyed, he said, I built it to destroy it. These are just dreams. But I realized something in everything that I am witnessing all over the world, because I'm looking all over the world, I'm watching the watchers. That there was a constant and consistent behavioral communication from our Father to those that believe in him. Discernment, love, stay in love, don't bite the race bait, don't bite the hate bait. We win this war. The truth shall prevail. Have faith, revenge is his. The consistency of our Creator is amazing. And the grace, the amount of love and patience given to us hideous creatures who we do not deserve, this grace is evidence of beautiful and immaculate and precise and exact timing. So be patient. And I say this, those calculations and those ideas that were given to me, I've had dreams brought back to my memory 20, 30 years ago. And they all lined up perfectly to my questions prior to asking those questions. The answer was already there in my memory, but I was brought back to my memory. And then I went, oh, I had the answer to that. Okay. Copper, absolutely. The other thing that they have now is bedding. You plug into the ground and your bedding grounds you out. If you're in a warm climate, take your shoes off and walk in the ground. Go pee outside every now and then and ground out. You are the temple of Yahuwah, and he dwells within you. And woe to those who defile their temple, they shall surely die. Take care of your body. Ground out. You are a electromagnetic microphone and speaker. Treat your bodies well. Treat each other well. Look at Emoto water experiments and rice experiments. We treat and talk to each other with love. Be light of the world. We change this energy, this whole system, in love and reverence and in patience and perseverance. We choose to be better and different, even though we're not capable of it. But those mathematical numbers and the ending of that video where it comes up with the date, and when other people looked at those dates, you have to understand something. Something's coming. The wrath of Yahuwah is upon us. With all the Baal worship and the abortions and the turning our backs on him, every time we do this to each other and to him, he corrects us and gives us one last chance. Be blessed. White birch, yes. Yeah. Get ready for 6G, yeah. I'm telling you, something's coming. Everybody's saying it. They know it. Looking Glass Project, another one. Be blessed, do not be in fear. We're not given the spirit of fear. Be in love, reach out to one another, be the light of the world. Just be good, just walk in his footsteps. Do these experiments yourself. Yeah. 369, you know it. I studied 369 quite a bit. Infinite. Infinity. Do this as a spiritual practice in praying to your Father. Speak plainly. Look at time as not linear. Have the ability to be not racist or to be in a temporal, one-dimensional thought process. Time doesn't exist. When you're praying in this realm of love and gratitude from the beginning, it has power, it has meaning. These witches and warlocks and these necromancers and the Egyptians all the way to the Gnostic Gnosis secret societies, witches and warlocks, their magic is powerful, but not anything as powerful as the one and only. We are at war. There's no do-overs. All hands on deck. Prepare. Protect one another. Judge no one. Be blessed. Olive oil, yes. Yes, absolutely. Yes, Project Looking Glass. These things that I had the coincidence of finding in perfect timing and correlate this and build this mosaic of all these things that happened are brilliant. I looked at the cenotes in California, Mexico, Baja Peninsula, and in the Gulf of Mexico under 20 feet of water. There's 20 feet of water that wasn't there before. The firmament, sky ice, temperature variables. Even in temperature variables, you have molecules that stop moving and molecules that speed up, and then molecules under a plasma state get so excited they ignite. There's your direct energy weapons. They've been spraying the skies, the earth, with nanoparticle aluminum, strontium, barium, weather modification, all these 5G towers everywhere. It's like putting tinfoil in a microwave. Thermite everywhere, just waiting to be ignited. Whatever is coming, I cannot say. But what they've done to this world and what they're doing to us, they've never stopped experimenting on us. Some have been protected. Some have fallen and are no longer with us. Let us be grateful that we have the Ruach HaKodesh, the breath of Yahweh within us. Let us be grateful that we have people like Mike in the chat. Hey, Mike, love you, brother. That we have at least somebody that we could relate to. Let us conceptualize these deep, fantastic, beyond comprehension ideologies and share them with one another. Iron sharpening iron. Do not restrict yourself to churchianity or churchiosity or religianity. Every time we see something miraculous, we want to create a religion out of it, a doctrine, a ritual. Rituals are for necromancing and witchcrafts and warlocks and witches. Potions, pharmakeia, pharmacia, are nothing more than poisons. Keep your temple pure. Keep your mind open, wide open, and be alert. The world needs more alerts. Yeah. Millions of watt into the ionosphere. Absolutely. I'm very familiar with HAARP. And you have to understand something. These weapons work, right? The Tanakh, the Old Testament, or the Torah, yeah? There is only one true, yeah. This isn't spirituality. This is truth. Our one and only loving Father, Adonai Elohim. Yahuwah, Yahushua, his son, and the scriptures that I lay before you. This beautiful book. It's called The Sefer from Sefer.net. All of the texts that were taken out of the New King James Version. I have a New King James Version as well. All of the texts that were taken out are put back in. Yeah. Yeah. Nothing on earth is good for us. You're right. Yeah. Yep. Pfizer. Absolutely. The Torah is the law. Yes. Yes. The Torah is the Tanakh, is the Old Testament. the New Testament was written. He came to fulfill the law, not to bring a new law. Love your strangers as you would be loved. And the 10 Commandments. No 600 mitzvot. No Babylonian Talmud edicts. The ones that rule this world are Talmudic Zionists, and they are destroying us and this creation and bringing about their abominations. The genetic manipulations have just been confirmed, and I got it written down here somewhere. They're going ahead with these experiments on DNA manipulation. Absolutely, it just been given authority in Asia, and I'm sorry, but it's coming. The cyclical behavior is this: all things that Halal did, he will do soon and now, but all at once. There will be enslavement, deception, distraction from our Father, genocide, and magic. Just like King Herod killing all the Egyptian children, or the Hebrew children, to stop biblical prophecy of Yeshua HaMashiach coming, he could not stop prophecy. So whether it's King Herod or the Pharaoh throwing the Hebrew children into the Nile River, genocide is upon us. That is a fact. The genetic manipulation in our food, in our animal livestock, they're putting the poison in the stuff you feed your animals with. Just like the Egypt and Romans, and now the same plan with the Great Reset, with World Economic Forum and these Zionists that run the world. They are literally manipulating and genetically modifying everything. All flesh shall be corrupted if time was not cut short. We found fake watermelons, fake avocados, fake eggs. These watermelons you could bend and twist and they won't break. A banana is supposed to have seeds in it. Oh, we're way farther down the timeline than you think. Please, Mike, look at the previous video I just posted. The mathematical phenomenon that I was sitting in the bathtub and I just spit out and got AI to calculate, which I don't trust, but I did look at these things. We found the rest of the Meseroth on the earth with Hornsby Island Mysteries. It is amazing. I need a group of people to help me present this to the world. It will be too late. People will see these things and shake their heads in wonderment. How did they do this? Judaism has nothing to do with Scripture, you're right. Hey, Kenley, blessings to you. Yeah. The Torah is the law. The Tanakh, the Old Testament, is the law. But when the Babylonians were taken into Babylon, they were infected with the Talmud, the Babylonian edicts and gematria, and the sciences and sorceries that King Solomon and his many concubines infected the Hebrew people. And the two sticks were separated. Judea, Israel. And that's where the term Jew comes from. Judea, Jew. Israel, Isis, Rael, Israel, Jacob. Jacob was the bad guy who stole his brother's heritage. He who holds the heel was changed from his name Jacob to Israel and was forgiven. Yet, the house of Esau is now in charge of this world. And the bloodline of Avraham and his handmaiden and the Ishmaelites run this world. Period. They are not Hebrews. They are not Israelis. This isn't anti-Shemite, Ham, Japheth, Cush, and Shem. It's not anti-Semite verbiage that I'm using. It's anti-Zionism, propagation through deception of false flags to promote war and destruction of the Goyim, meaning people from a strange land. There is nor Jew or Gentile. And Yeshua HaMashiach, the Christ, Emmanuel, the Word made flesh, said that plainly. Love your enemies. Those are your brothers and sisters that are deceived. Don't hate your enemy. Pray for them. Heap hot coals on their head. Yeah, Christopher. Yeah. He sold his, yes, he did. He sold his heritage. And that's why Yahweh says, I love Jacob and hated Esau, because he gave up his heritage. Absolutely. Yeah, really. He did take his right. Him and his mom tricked him by putting animal furs on his head and the smell of the fields on him. Yes. Praying for your puppy. Oh, thank you, Sally. Thank you for highlighting that. Yes, please pray for my little Wrinkles. I'll show you my little guy and then I'm going to end the video. I love you all so much. This profound mathematic rabbit trail that I go under is just amazing, but it's yielded great results. So this is my little buddy, Wrinkles, and he's so sore. He got hit by a train. Digital IDs are coming. There, Wrinkles, my old timer. He's 107, 116 years old. 112. And how many years? It's been about in December since he got hit by a train, eh? He's been crippled for 10 years. I built him a little wheelchair, 10 years to this day. And he's hurting. He's not with us much longer. He could barely hold himself up. 16 years old, and he's my best buddy. I love him. He's old. Yeah, Wrinkles. Yeah. So yeah, pray for him. Lift him up. He's going home soon. May you all be blessed this day. Enjoy your family and your meetings together. Take a look at that math. If anybody wants to add to it, feel free to in the comments. Get a hold of me. These ideas are profound, I know. I just run with it. I go with it. I try to be obedient and share it with everybody because iron sharpening iron. Let's figure this out, brothers and sisters. Let's do it together in unison and love. I will accept any correction. I am not perfect. Yeah. So I hope this message finds you. May you all be blessed and enjoy your time with your family and your time off from work. Yeah, Christopher, they don't need any shots. We are so deceived. These doctors and religious shepherds, hirelings that have scattered the flock. Woe unto them who say sweet is savory and savory is sweet. Woe unto them who say light is dark and dark is light. Oh, the wrath. I can't imagine. There's good Jews and there's bad Jews, but the word Jew, Jewish, those were the people that were out of Judea, and that reference to the word Jews was people that weren't Jewish that called them Jews. They're Hebrews, and they're scattered to all four corners of the earth, and there is nor Jew or Gentile. That was the Sadducees and Pharisees in Babylonian edict that thought themselves special, God's chosen ones, that we would take all of the strangers, the Goyim. The Gentiles would be the slaves for the Goyim, and they were infiltrated by Babylonian witches and warlocks and evil Rukuoth spirits from King Solomon's time onward. And they're not special. They are greatly deceived that they would commit such atrocities, bring about World War I, World War II, World War III, false flag event after false flag event, and putting the blame on Rome. Let us get Rome to kill him. The blood is on their hands. Be blessed this day. Yeah. Be the light of the world. Be love and truth-filled and grateful in this season. I hope this message finds you, everyone. May you all be blessed.